Yay, we are here again on the podcast. I am super thrilled to have Cindy Esch with me. She has and owns and runs Spark Mindset Coaching, and I'm so honored to have you with me today, Cindy.
Well, thanks for asking me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, really quick, I do want to express our disclosure, what we are not, or what this podcast is about. It is going to be built with stories, some tips, some advice, maybe some suggestions from both of us, or possibly some opinions. But it will also entail some experience, education, and training that we both have. We're not doctors, licensed nutritionists, or dietitians. So Cindy, I met you a few months back, and I don't know, you're a life changer. You make a huge difference in people's lives, and I've been to several of your events. And as we were talking before we hit record, I love going to your monthly events here locally in Spokane. But I'll just let you go ahead and tell us about you.
Well, I'm a certified life coach. So I've actually had training and certification, and I have to renew yearly and take a test yearly. And although I could work with anybody, I specialize in working with women who are survivors of past abuse and past trauma, past sexual abuse. I am a survivor of 15 years of childhood sexual abuse. And the thing about that is so often in society, we think, or you would think with Me Too and all of these movements and everything that's gone on in the last several years, that it would feel comfortable for women to come forward and to get the healing that they need. But there's still a tremendous amount of shame associated. And there's thoughts like, you must have done something wrong to deserve it, or you imagined it. And none of those are true, right? None of those are true. Women never imagine it, and they never did anything ever to deserve it. And then there's this thought also, which is so interesting to me, which is that's just part of the price that we pay for being women. And that's not true either.
No.
Then there's a thought of, if I just get justice, if I go through the legal system, if the person who was my abuser gets punished, then I will be healed. Justice does not equal healing. I'm not saying there shouldn't be justice. There should be justice. And there's also this thought, if I just tell my story, I will heal. And although that's a first beginning step, it doesn't create the healing. And then sadly, I often hear women say, well, it happened to me, and now I just have to live with it for the rest of my life. And that is definitely not true. Right. So I feel really honored to have special training and to be able to work with women so that they can separate out the facts of what happened from the thoughts and feelings and the stories that they've told themselves in their head. Because when we suffer abuse and trauma, our mind, just like that, makes this snap decision on what we have to do to survive, to actually survive it. And that's absolutely what had to happen in order for us to survive it, which means that they did nothing wrong.
Right.
But then we take that on and we turn it into this repetitive thoughts or feelings, or another way to say it is narrative or story that we tell in our mind over and over and over again until we believe that that is who we are and that is all we can ever be. And I help my clients totally separate that out and see what are the facts of what happened from the story that's been running in their head. And I show them how to let that story go, which is transformational. And then I teach them how they can rewrite that narrative. Oftentimes we just push it down, right? We push it down and we're like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to be successful in my career. And we don't even see how it's like we're looking through blinders and how it's really affecting us. But it actually is, it's stopping us from creating the relationships that we want and the closeness that we want and the success that we want. It just shows up everywhere. And so when we're able to rewrite the narrative, then we're able to go out and create healthy, deeply satisfying, loving relationships. Then we're able to go out and have the success in our career and have the success in our businesses that we really want to have and anywhere in our life. But it really does start with all those things that I just said and rewriting that narrative. And to see people, women, be able to do that is just really heartwarming for me.
So you work with women that have had sexual abuse as a child, but what about
adult life?
Okay, good. That's what I was going to ask is, you know, because I know that there are a lot of women that have been in relationships or marriages, or, you know, maybe even in the workplace. So, yeah, so any of that would apply. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I was to come to find you, search you out, how would I find you, first off?
My website is sparkmindsetcoaching.com, like spark a flame. So sparkmindsetcoaching.com. And you can find me on my business page on Facebook, Spark Mindset Coaching. And I have a private, closed, very safe Facebook group that you can ask to join. It's called Choose to Soar, where I post blogs and tools and tips for healing, and where women can ask for coaching and get help and support. And that's Choose to Soar on Facebook. Yeah.
Beautiful. So your group, you're very selective at who you let in. You have a question. Good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'll put all the links underneath this video so that way they're easy to click on for anybody watching this. But so if I find you, go ahead.
I'll send you a link so in case they want to do a free assessment with me. Yeah. Because it's good for them to have a session with me for free to see if what they want to work on and how I work as a coach is going to be a fit for them.
Right. So I find you, I fill out this assessment form, and then we set an appointment and we'll sit and talk for maybe half an hour to an hour and get to know each other, right?
Yeah, about 45 minutes. And I do, because I'm here in a suburb of Spokane, Liberty Lake, but my clients are all over the United States. And so I work by Zoom or by phone, which is so also really freeing for my clients. Even my local clients prefer to work by phone or by Zoom because they can be about their busy day and pull over into a parking lot and have their session with me, and they're in the privacy of their car. So they don't have to travel to an office and waste that time traveling to an office, and they don't have to sit in a restaurant or a coffee shop and pour their heart out. So it's very confidential, it's very safe.
And that's what I was thinking, is that this has got to be a conversation that's going to be, you know, really difficult. So, you know, myself, you know, not being in that situation, but I would think that I would probably want to speak to you on the phone versus the video, just so that way I could really feel into what I need to talk to you about and really listen to what you have to say. And yeah, maybe be home in my pajamas and in the comfort of my comfy couch, or so that's beautiful that you offer that to anybody that's willing and able to do that. And that's beautiful. I think that what you've been through has allowed you the ability to really understand too, because that's the biggest fear, I think, because I have friends that have confided in me, and you know, it's knowing that somebody's been through it and really does understand and has prevailed and made it through and sorted it all out. So I think what you're doing is beautiful and honorable. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on this podcast, because I'm certain that this will get to at least one person and help one person reach out to you and get the help that they need.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of times, you know, my clients don't associate their issues with their past abuse. They think about it in my marriage isn't working, or I can't find a job that I'm satisfied in. My boss is a jerk or can't stand my coworkers. And I'm not saying those situations don't exist, but it's so often that we come in the back door with it. So then the reason I say that is because I don't want people to go, oh yeah, that happened to me a long time ago, but it doesn't affect me anymore. Because it's amazing. My clients often come to me with these other issues, and then they're like, my abuse really is coloring how I go about my life. Yeah.
It's coloring it in maybe the lens that you view your life.
Absolutely. And how you interact, and how you get triggered. I can remember before I healed, and I've done a lot of thought work and worked with a lot of professionals before I ever got trained as a life coach. But I can remember thinking that there was nothing wrong with me. I left home the day after high school graduation and kind of went, well, because it was my stepfather. That's done. I don't ever have to see him again. I'm over it, right?
Right.
But I didn't realize that when I married, it made me very overprotective of my son. It affected how I interacted with my first husband. It probably was a big piece that ended my marriage. And in my second marriage, because really, before I'd done any healing work, I'm like, it's not me, it was him, right? But if I just find the right guy. And so I remarried, and I'm like, wait a minute, he's a jerk too. If he would just do this, that, and the other thing, life would be really good. And I was just so upset all the time. And when I finally started doing work, I went, oh yeah, that's right. I did marry a great guy, but I, without even knowing it, was getting triggered all the time. And it went all the way back to my abuse, and I didn't even know it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you could be triggered. I would say sexual abuse or physical abuse. I would assume that you would work with either.
Any form of abuse. Okay. People think there's differences in physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse. All abuse has the component of emotional abuse, but really all the components of abuse and even trauma. If you think about trauma, like when we think about trauma, we think about like people that have served in the military and been in a war zone. But think about two people that maybe have witnessed a shooting.
Yeah.
That, we have so much of that going on, unfortunately, in our society. That's trauma. Yeah. But there can be other forms of trauma that we don't even realize, like a car accident. Mm-hmm. And that affects us if we don't get it dealt with. Yeah, so all of it, strangely enough, has very similar components. You wouldn't think that it would. And the other thing people think is, oh, well, Cindy says, her abuse went on for 15 years. Of course, Cindy needed some help, but it only happened to me once. Mm. Or I was never raped. I was just touched one time inappropriately, or a remark was made that was inappropriate in a workplace. But there's no differentiating with how we on our own interpret what happened to us and how that's causing us to live our life from this erroneous story that we tell ourselves, no matter how small the event was.
Probably in some sort of protection mode. You're going to probably find yourself limiting yourself from opportunities that could move you forward into whatever goals, that could be career path that you're wanting to achieve, but you'll stop, you'll limit yourself because you'll fear it.
Well, I can tell you that I was, before I ever became trained as a life coach years ago, again, before I did my thought work, but had done some therapy, but hadn't learned to do thought work, that I was in a position as a salesperson for convention sales in a large hotel. And my cubicle was closest to the director of sales office, and they hired a new salesperson. And so they moved me to the back. Well, interestingly enough, where my cubicle was, I could see this way out a door. There was a window in the door out into the hall. And I could see this way out a window outside. And when they moved me, I had no way to look out. So I came into work one morning and they said, we're moving you to this back cubicle so the new person can be closest to the director of sales and get trained. And I just instantly felt overwhelmed, and I started crying, and I started hyperventilating, and I was crying out of control. And I went to my director of sales and I said, I quit. She's like, what? I'm like, I quit. It had nothing to do with the job. It had everything to do with moving to that cubicle where I didn't have a view out. Had me feeling trapped, and that went back to my abuse. So we don't know. We end relationships, we quit jobs, we do all kinds of things, and we don't even really understand the real reason why. I recently worked with a client who had no abuse in her growing up at all, no abuse in her personal life at all, but she was in a job for 8 years where her boss, a female, so not even a man, but was very, very, for 8 years, verbally abusive to her. And when she left, she had a series of one job after another after a number. The number of jobs that she started and quit in a period of 1 year was tremendous. And she couldn't figure out why. It was because she had suffered abuse and trauma in her employment.
Right.
And she hadn't dealt with the healing of that. And just healing that has totally changed her career path.
Right. Right. Wow. So if I seek you out, we have a consultation and we are a good match. Because that's important to be
Huge.
Match really well with a coach, get a good vibe, know that, you'll work great together, you'll accomplish these goals. It's probably really difficult to say how long it'll take, but I'm assuming we would start off with 3 months or 6 months and kind of move forward and see how things go. Because I coach people too, different topics, different needs, but everybody's different. Some people really catch on really quick and some, don't. But what I coach for is weight loss or creating a lifestyle. But I got to imagine that this can take longer.
Well, it depends. A lot of clients need 6 months to a year, but I recommend that everybody starts out with 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So a session once a week with me, 45 minutes, and then I send them session notes and homework and things to work on during the week, and we come back, and then they bring their real life into it. Like this week, this is what's going on for me, and we work on that, and then at the end of the 12 weeks, we assess. It's a lot like learning a new skill, right? So in 2015, I trained for and cycled 500 miles. I did it in a 10-day period, about 50 miles a day, although I had one day that was 69 miles. Ooh, it was a long day. But I really thought, silly me, because I trained for a year before, I really thought, it's riding a bike. How hard is this, right? I can just get on the bike and I can just ride. Well, I got on the bike and rode and damaged my Achilles tendon and damaged my knee, compensating for the Achilles tendon, and had to have physical therapy. And the physical therapist said, you just can't get on the bike and ride. You need a personal trainer that trains long distance endurance athletes. And so then I worked with this person, and this person said, well, you just can't get on and ride 4 hours or I'm like, just get me so I can ride 50 miles in a day and I'll be good. She's like, no. So I had short, really fast rides. I had long, really slow rides. I had in-between rides. I had hill climbing rides. But I also had core strengthening and upper body. I'm like, And I ride a 3-wheel recumbent. So I'm like, why do I need upper body strength? I don't understand. Why do I need upper body strength? Well, one day I was riding, and it was during harvest season, and I was riding on a 2-lane highway, and the semi trucks were going zoom, zoom, zoom. And as they came towards me, they create their own wind, and it's really strong, and it pushed me away. But once they got beyond me, the wind wanted to pull me out into the traffic of the next semi truck. If I hadn't had upper body strength, I would have been dead, right? I just would have been dead. So there's all these things that we actually need to do. And it's the same way, you know, that with the coaching that you do, there's all these different components that we just can't do on our own. And it's the same way with recovery from abuse and trauma. They're learning a new skill. 12 weeks may not be enough, because we're actually rerouting how the brain thinks. We're actually stopping the use of old neural pathways, and we're creating new neural pathways. You know, my husband in 2010 had a stroke, a debilitating, thought he was going to die, couldn't talk stroke.
Wow.
And he's a journeyman electrician, and it took a year. He couldn't talk, he had trouble walking. He would even after a week in the hospital and a week in inpatient rehab, he would come home, and for months he would turn the stove on and put stuff on it that had no business being on a stove. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh no.
And I thought, this man's never going to recover. But it took almost a year. And then all of a sudden one day he was completely back. I'm like, holy moly. And we've been working with special therapists to help him with his body and with his brain and everything. And I called her. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's 100% back. And she said, yeah, the brain made new pathways. That all this time has just been exercising the brain, which you probably know is just a muscle.
Yeah.
So we have to exercise it and build new pathways, and it takes time.
Yeah. I like your story though about, did you actually accomplish the 500 miles biking?
Yeah, I did.
But I love the story that, you know, I love that story, and I've heard it before, and I absolutely, every time you tell it, there's a little piece that's different. So I always, when you start, I'm always like, oh, I'm going to learn something new. But I love the fact that you bring it up today in this podcast in reference to coaching. It's the same thing, you know, when talking about the wind shifting you, I think about life.
Oh, yeah.
And working with our clients, and how that wind and that semi-trailer coming through is like life, you know. I talk to my clients, and they have semi-trailers. Some weeks it's 1 or 2, some weeks it's 12 of them that fly by them, that shifts them and pushes them all over the road. And, you know, they get back on that road and they keep going. But, you know, I do believe I've hired many coaches in my lifetime, different types of coaches. In fact, I look back early in my previous career, I hired individuals to help me in my business. They didn't call them coaches back then, but that's exactly what they did. So I believe if there's anything that you want to achieve, whether that be in a career or overcome something that's happened in your past, or a relationship, or, you know, want to lose weight, or want to get up on stage to bodybuild, anything that you want to accomplish that is intimidating or scary or exciting, or a mix of all of this, it is important to hire someone that has been there, been through the muck, understands what challenges you're going to have, what obstacles you're going to have, and help you through those.
Yeah, it's so true. You know, I used to think that before I learned about mindset work and did my healing work, that this was my life down here, and it was going like this, right? And I used to think everybody else's life was way up here, just zooming along, and it was wonderful for them. But that's not true. Everybody's life is like this, and all over the board, right? And I don't know if you know, but there's been a special on, we have a smart TV. And so we've been watching Inside Bill's Brain, which is about Bill Gates, which is just really fascinating how he thinks. He's really brilliant. But I mean, yes, he created Microsoft and everything, but the foundation work that the Bill and Melanie Gates Foundation work and everything that he does didn't really take off until he started meeting regularly with Warren Buffett. So even, and his IQ, Bill Gates' IQ is just, I forget how high it is, but it's really high. I mean, he's brilliant, right? And very successful in Microsoft. But if you look at, in any area of life, people that are very successful, they have, whether you call them coaches or mentors or guides or whatever you want to call them, they have them because that is what helps them level up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And oftentimes it'll help you avoid some challenges that you would hit head on and maybe derail you or prevent you from even achieving your goals. It's nice to have somebody hold you accountable as well, because I've been that way where I've been floundering and I can even see it. I can feel it. I'm just like, I'm lost. I know that I want to do this and time is ticking away and life is going quickly, but I hired a coach and it makes all the difference. And oftentimes it's just having that person there to say, did you do this week? We talked about this and you said you would do it. Did you do it?
Yeah. And just helping you unpack your brain, because your brain gets everything. I think of it like yarn, like different colors of yarn being all tangled up in your brain. Yeah. And then a coach helps you sort it all out. And when you're able to sort it out, then you make really great sense of it. I coach with 2 separate certified coaches every week. So I have 2 sessions where I am coached every week. Any coach, in my opinion, any coach who isn't working with a coach on themselves has no business coaching other people. Agreed. Absolutely no business. Yep. And the other thing I think, at least in the coaching that I do, probably different for what you do, because I know, like when I did the 500-mile bike ride, the personal trainer was like, you need to eat like this, you need to sleep like this, you need to do this particular exercise. And I had a chart and every day everything was different. So you must do it like this. Right. In the work that I do, it's always so interesting to me. Recently, I've had 2 people say, well, one person actually stood up at a meeting and said, people tell me that I give great advice, so I'm going to open my own coaching business. And I had someone else reach out to me and said, people tell me I give great advice, so I think I should be a coach. In the thought work that I do, I don't give advice. Right. And when I hear mindset coaches say, someone say, I give great advice, so I'm going to be a coach, it just makes me want to bite my nails right off, because the truth of the matter is, in each and every one of us, we have our own wisdom. Yeah. We know exactly what we need to do. Mm-hmm. Right. The problem is there's all this tangle inside of our heads, so we can't get to it. Right. My job is to help you untangle the yarn, separate out the circumstances or the facts from the thoughts and the feelings, see the thoughts and the feelings that are not working for you, get rid of them, create thoughts and feelings that empower you to move forward. And I don't tell people how to do that. I just ask really great questions and stay completely neutral. Right. And listen. And then it's so amazing, because people will go, oh my goodness. I was coaching a client who was not married, who is a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, works full time, pays her own way, and still lives in the family home with her father, who was the abuser, and her mother. And she has her own kind of room and bathroom, and she locks her door. And you would think when you first start coaching that the first thought is, you need to move out, yeah. Right? That's not my place.
Mm-mm.
My place was to coach her on her thinking,
Right.
just to ask questions. And we coached, and I never, ever, ever, ever said you should move out. And on week 11, she said, I'd like to figure out why I'm overeating. And so I started asking questions. And one of the questions was, tell me from the time you get up till the time you go to sleep what your day is. So she did. And she, you know, she's saying, well, I get up and I know when my father's going to leave, so I don't leave my locked room until I know my father has left for work, and then I got to hurry up and get to work, and da 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 da. Then I come home, and if he's there, I go right to my room and I lock my door, and that's where I stay till the next day. And I have my own TV, and I have my own refrigerator in there, and I have my own food. And she stopped and she went, I'm overeating because I'm locked myself in my own prison to keep myself safe.
Yep.
And there's nothing to do in there but watch Netflix and eat.
Right.
And she said, I'm going to move out. And she did.
Yay!
Hey, but do you see that? My job was never to tell her, was never to give advice. My job was to just ask questions week after week after week. And finally, in her own wisdom, it bubbled up from inside of her.
Right.
That's the blessing, is to see it bubble up inside my clients and see them take back their life. That's the really cool thing.
Right. Well, I do want to say one more thing before we close this podcast. You do have an incredible event every single month that is at Clark's Fork in Spokane.
On Hamilton and Cataldo.
And I try to get there every month. I'm going to get there this month too. I love going there, and I end up usually meeting some incredible ladies that end up, being friends. And so that's a huge plus. I also get to witness you coaching one of the individuals that come, and it's free.
It is.
And I always enjoy the salad bar there when I come. So I always look forward to it. But we'll make sure to put the link to you have that in Meetup, right?
Yep. It's
okay. So we'll
Meetup,
make sure.
and they search Choose to Soar.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the only thing I ask is that they please buy lunch, because Clark's Forks gives us the place for free.
Right. It's great food, great location, good parking. But you just come there and it's free. I mean, yeah, you got to buy lunch, but the salad's great, or whatever. They have paninis. They have incredible cinnamon rolls the size of your head. It's beautiful. It's a great place. I enjoy going there. So definitely we'll put the link below. And I've really enjoyed this conversation with you, Cindy. As always, I just adore you. And so I kept asking you, we got to do it. So we just had to get our calendars to mesh. And so I'm honored that you did this with me today. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Catherine. I adore you too. And I really feel honored to have been on your podcast. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.